Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. Hey, welcome back. You are listening to Money on Tap. My name's Seth Crossman.
And I'm Ben Brayshaw.
Folks, if you are joining us by podcast today, we want to thank you. Or if you're joining us via the magic of radio, we want to thank you. We're grateful to have you aboard as we step into another week of some incredible news that we're going to have a chance to cover here shortly with you. But we're going to focus today on you and what you can do to wrap up your 2020 and take advantage of some tax breaks. How can you lower your taxes in 2020? Ultimately, as financial planners, that's what we do at Brayshaw Financial Group, is we look out for you and we try to see how can we create a better situation for you in your taxes, those flow-throughs in your taxes or in your investment options and all sorts of things that we love to look at the universe investing. But everything, believe it or not, does have to go through this tax filter, right? So what can you do?
Yeah, Seth, I'm really excited about doing this. We talk about taxes all the time, and we talk about different ways to help mitigate taxes and address taxes. And, it's nice that we got a year-end show. We're going to try to sum some of these things up, bring back some points we've already made, maybe some new points for people that haven't caught us before, or consolidate a little bit here and help people, because there's some stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff happening in our world between election fraud question marks and videos I've watched, which are a little scary, and then we've got a potential Biden presidency and what that might mean and how that's going to affect taxes. So we got a lot of moving parts here, and I think we're going to try to crisscross some of this stuff today. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Do we need to disclose that we're not like CPAs and all that kind of jazz, just so people aren't?
You look like one, though.
I am in my CPA uniform today, but no, we're not. We're financial planners. But with this is what we do, and this is the landscape that we're all living in right now, and we're here to help, and we're going to have some fun. So before we go down that road too much further, it is time for Money in the News.
Well, first up today, Seth, we've got an article here in the Wall Street Journal, and this is about Warner Brothers. Pretty interesting. So they're getting ready to release all their 2021 films on HBO Max and in the theaters at the exact same time. Pretty interesting. I don't know if this is a gamble or if this is just a response to the pandemic, or with all the streaming, and I have no idea. The kind of the traditional, I don't know, the movie comes out in the theaters, and then a few months later it shows up on a, streaming service, and you can buy it, and then a few months later it's free on, some, premium channel subscription. That's kind of the standard, right?
Right. That's what we're used to seeing. And we've actually had Money in the News with AT&T, who owns Time Warner, or Warner Brothers, is it has been a conversation that we've had in the past as far as them getting into this subscription service like Netflix or, Amazon. There's Apple TV. There's all these different subscription services now that are coming out. And before it was, what were they doing to try to get your subscriptions? Disney Plus, and the content that they were buying. And The Office was, I think, the most popular watch show. No, it was Friends. I don't know. It was kind of back and forth between them, but it was like these older shows that they were purchasing rights to get your subscriptions. But now they're really trying to thread this needle with the pandemic and saying we're going to just bypass the theaters because nobody's going to the theaters, but we're going to use this to get your subscriptions. And HBO Max hasn't really pulled together the content that some of the other streaming franchises have. But I'll tell you, when I took a look at this and I saw Dune, I went, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to have to get HBO Max now, because that's one of my favorite all-time movies. Remember that as a kid as just an incredibly visually amazing. Anyways, that's just my bent on this, but there was a lot more to the article and some of the state of affairs with these services and how they're going to be bringing content to us. And if you're looking at an investment standpoint, I'm just wondering how many people out there are looking at these home studio or your electronics. I'm trying to think of like who's creating the best TV today or whatever, and some of the options that you have to invest in some of these behind the scenes moving pieces to possibly a future move. I mean, we know it's right now, but there's a future move in really this home theater kind of a standout.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. There's a lot of people that no matter what the scenario is, they're not going to be wanting to pack into a theater. But I have noticed, Seth, over the years that theaters have reduced the the theater spacing by the little tiny seats to putting in these elaborate, like reclining, sit in your, lap of luxury and
get your nachos delivered to your seat.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that that's something that has changed in its own right. So the number of people sitting in the seats is less. So that's probably on some level. But the movie theater just seems like for people who are concerned about this pandemic at heightened levels, not the number one location they're going this Christmas holiday season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bounce back story as well. I'm hoping, in the next year we have a conversation around, how people are flooding back to life. And this is one of those things that I think we all can say we've gone, we've done, we've had a great time. We love going to the movies. It's an experience that, whether it's your date or you take the family out to watch the new Disney movie, like you just can't replace that in your home. The best that we could try, still, I don't think it's going to ever replace the theater. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a ways down the road, but that's my wishful thinking at the end of the day.
No, I think there's some truth to that. I think there's some truth, but I think that on some level, with Disney having released, Mulan, I don't know if you remember that, but Mulan was released, and then they said, here, obviously people aren't going to the theater, so we're going to release it at the same time. And I think these companies are saying, we can release in the theater, but the truth is that we're going to get a lot more sales right off the bat if we just release it at home. In the meantime, now I wonder how that plays out in its long business perspective.
Well, you tell us. What are you guys doing? We want to hear from you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. What's important to you, folks? That's what we're going to be talking about. And, the money in the news is just a part of that. Now, this headline really snapped my head because, A, it talks about the Trump administration, and B, they're suing, and C, it's Facebook.
Yeah, this article really made me angry. I got to tell you, Seth, it made me really irritated. I'm not really becoming I'm becoming a Facebook disliker. I'm not on Facebook, but I do not like this story here. But basically, what the Trump administration is suing them about is that they have only been advertising jobs for H-B1 workers, which are basically green card visa workers, and not providing them to, U.S. people here in the United States. And it's become apparently obvious during the pandemic.
This article comes to us from the Wall Street Journal by Michelle Hackman and Sadie Gurman and Deepa Seetharam. And we just thank them for, bringing this to us, because given what we know from the article, and that's really all we have to go off of, it was sad. It was a really sad thing to take a look at, where Facebook is ultimately giving away what could be a U.S.-based job
Yeah, this is beyond. This is unpatriotic, is how I almost even interpreted this. It says in a 17-page complaint filed Thursday, I quote, "The Justice Department Civil Rights Division said Facebook inadequately advertised at least 2,600 positions between 2018 and 19 that were filled by foreign professionals on H-B1 visas when the company was looking to sponsor them for permanent residency permits known as green cards." I mean, they were literally trying to get people to be able to become permanent residents of the United States through this process.
Well, a discrimination based off of your being a U.S. citizen is what this boils back into, and that is.
You're right. I mean, like, it gets me. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm literally livid about this because they weren't even taking online applications for these jobs. They were doing mail-in only. And one of the advertisements they had, out of all the advertisements at one point, they had one U.S. applicant that was able to figure out that these were jobs. Now, there's two types of positions you got to fill, right? There's the super high-techy, maybe it's a security professional, engineer person who's a brilliant genius out of XYZ country who needs to come and work here to fill a Facebook need. That's one person. There may be one or two or a handful in the world that you want that person and you need them here. I get that, and I have no problem with that. They're talking about positions that required only a bachelor degree and 2 years worth of experience for general art. I mean, these are not...
Yeah, a curator.
Yeah, these are not like high-tech, complicated positions. And there's thousands of them. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're dealing with unemployment issues, and they're still fighting this.
Yeah, really upsetting. Matter of fact, that makes me go back into some other articles that we've taken a look of. Basically, Facebook's coming under a lot of scrutiny, and understandable. They're just they're massive in what they do and how much money they consume and how much control they have. And I think it's just one more iron or arrow in the quiver here for people really looking to either disband or take down a lot of what Facebook's influence is. And if it's something that's currently in your holdings and you are considering, think about it. I don't know. That's one way that you can certainly have a vote. And that's one of the things that we consider. There's lots of ways for you to be an investor out there and to participate. Just think about it, folks. What are you doing and who are you supporting? That's what I would say.
Well, next on the list here, Seth, we've got an article that a lot of people are probably keeping some perspective on, and that's that's Boeing. Boeing won its first big 737 MAX order since grounding ended. Basically, an Irish airline sets a deal for 75 MAX jets. I mean, this is coming after all sorts of cancellations of these and all sorts of different. I mean, we have had two major 737 problems. I mean, it's bad, and that's been. I just saw the first one take off the other day with passengers on the news. It was a big deal.
Yeah, and this is so nice to hear good news coming back for Boeing. I love it's an American company. It's one of the used to be one of the biggest in the Dow, and over a year ago, before we started to have the whole 737 MAX conversation of what's going on with this airline, or this not airline, but the airplane that was having these issues. And Boeing struggling over this last year. It's one of those stories that is continued to be a big part of our economy, be a big part of what we are, I think, as Americans in many different places across America. And so I love seeing this happen. I love seeing them do what they needed to do, admit where they were wrong. The FAA being very thorough in everything that they were going through. And what we talked about in the past was them getting back on track. And so anyways, yeah, really great to see that this is happening. And it's I think Ryanair probably got a really good deal on this first order. But there's several other people that are out there that are receiving orders of these planes as well, and it's nice to know that it's going to be a good story going forward.
Yeah, I mean, after 346 lives were lost during the 2 crashes, this is a big deal. They don't take this lightly in the FAA world, that's for sure. But it looks like United Airlines is going to be the first company to actually get the new MAX since the regulators ended the grounding, and British Airways had signed an intent letter for 200 planes. So there's some very popular things going on around getting these orders back up and going, which speaks a lot to what the airline industry sees inside of whatever potential orders, future orders, air traffic needs and so forth. I mean, it's a big deal to be buying new planes, right after a pandemic. So that's a good sign for us.
Well, folks, you heard it here. Maybe not first, but for us, it's a lot of fun to talk about these things here at Brayshaw Financial Group and Money on Tap. You've been listening to Money on the News. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. What we're going to be diving in today. Okay, so here we are at the end of 2020, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that are on your plate, with everything that's going on around us. A lot of news out there, but these are some timely moves for you. How can you take care of yourself, right? And taking into consideration the tax year that we're in, there's probably 1 or 2 things that you're going to want to listen to that applies to you, no matter what your situation, and that you can take advantage of to try to lower your taxes in 2020 and just improve your financial situation and your awareness. We're going to be talking about that next, and we're glad you're here with us today. Thanks again for the likes, the listens. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap. Folks, we have a lot of fun doing this show, Money on Tap, and Ben and I have been financial planners for years and years, and our goal here with you is to bring you into the room, have the conversations that we have. We think these are critical conversations for you, but we understand this is a limited space, and what we'd love to do is to open the doors to you with us at Brayshaw Financial Group, so you could experience what it means to have 3-dimensional planning in your life. Let's take a look at all sides of your situation, your scenario, and see how we can put together the best plan possible, taking into account your risk. How much can you have in the market? How much do we need to have set aside and doing different things for your life? That's what we do as planners, how we engage with you, and we welcome you to do that with us. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Now, if you have $250,000 that are investable assets today, our planning is free to you. We want you to have the playbook to have a successful experience in retirement. Give us a call, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Ben and I welcome you to Brayshaw Financial for complete wealth management.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. This is Ben Brayshaw and Seth Cressman. We are diving into taxes and year-end taxes today. I'm pretty excited about this show. Seth wanted me to do the intro on this one, so I'm signing up. You can reach us at 855-226-8551, or you can email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And today we're going to start talking. We've got 8 different year-end tax items, and I think I want to preface this, Seth, with the fact that we have talked about a number of these over the past few months, even done shows on individual items here. So I would encourage anybody who, maybe hears something specific, just go back through our library. You can find us on probably any major podcast venue out there, iHeart, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, you name it. and dig through it if you have a specific topic you want to run. But we've got 8 of them here today. And as we go through these 8 topics, I think what I really want to encourage everyone to do is that there are not just 8, right? I mean, everyone's situation is so uniquely different, and we do tax incentive investing every day. That is our specialty. This is what we focus on. And if you have a scenario where you feel like you're paying too much in taxes, you feel like something's not quite right or something's wrong or could I make this better, give us a call. That's really where it starts. Sit down with us. We can figure out if we've got some scenarios and options that we can do outside of this that might meet those needs. So as we dive into this today, probably one of the most interesting easy scenarios for people to do is, if you are able to itemize, and that means you're able to do individual deductions on your taxes and so forth, or if you run a business or own a business, the number one thing to do is to pay some of your 2021 bills today. Buy that extra laptop, see if you have anything coming up in January that you can pay. And the other thing is maybe you have some income coming in from a various source or something like that. Maybe that's something that gets delayed. I don't know. Maybe that you discuss with a person about that getting paid in the beginning of January and reduce that income stream. 2020 has been a tough year for some people, but for other companies and other organizations, it's kind of like there's a polar opposite, right, Seth? I mean, some companies are doing unbelievably well, and then other companies are truly suffering, and it is really a polarity that I have not seen before in our world. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing over there?
Yeah, it is. There's gosh, it's hard to even dive into that piece without creating another show between the haves and the have-nots here, because there's such a division of clearly who's capable in a pandemic and geared for a pandemic and who is not. And it's really not a decision of the business. A lot of the time it's a decision of the governor of that state, kind of, or the legislators that are going to step in and say, you get to make it or don't. And gosh, we grieve for our friends and families that are in these situations today as well. But, the pay the bills now is one of those things that comes across the decision making of like, well, what are the things that are out there that we can take advantage of in trying to front run some of these expenses. And so take a if this is again the itemized deduction, if you are or not. And so there's some of these outliers there, but might be a review of your medical bills if you've had a significant medical situation out there that you want to take a look at that. If you are paying tuition, you can possibly do some prepay on tuition, and that's not one of those that a whole lot of people even consider. There's also the contributing to college savings plans. There's a few of them out there that you might want to take a look at, and some state deductions there that you can take a look at as well. And another one that doesn't really show up all that often, but is available to some, is the ABLE account. And that's if you have a family has a special needs, you can contribute up to $15,000 this year to that ABLE account, which allows people with qualifying disabilities to save money without jeopardizing the government benefits.
Right, and a parent can give to that account, and if you have a state where you have income tax, it's you'll get a state income tax deduction. There's no federal on that, but that's one scenario where you can get that. Another scenario is, in the 529 world, if you have an income tax piece, you can get a deduction if you use an in-state program there as well for maybe if you're doing some college planning and so forth. That's something you're probably going to want to sit down with a planner on and regarding that. But for the tax side, that might actually work well. The other thing that you can, as you're looking at your bills and you're looking at this and trying to structure income, if you've had a tough year and you have a customer who's having a great year, but might be buying from you next year, they may be looking for a way to create a bill to you, and that's create income to you and have you create a bill to them, and is what I'm trying to say. And they may want to pay a bill out this year while you can receive it at a lower tax bracket because maybe you haven't had an underperforming year. And those might be opportunities where you can work with various customers and vendor relationships and try to build that. That's something that I think can be strategized well and worked out well. Even with contracts, even if it's going to be a delivery of contract periods, you can have attorneys draft some of that stuff up. So those are things that I would probably say really drive a lot of kind of, you got a few weeks here, you're coming down to the wire, exactly what's going on. This is where, some creative thought is really relevant. And I would sit down with an attorney, a CPA, financial planner, somebody to help, strategize around some of this stuff with different questions.
Well, then, what about some of these losses that we've got in the portfolios this last year? Gosh, there's been such a disruption in the market.
This really is this is going out to Warren Buffett, who lost a ton of money on airlines. This is my advice to him.
Yeah, sure is. Hey, did you know that the tax code allows you to sell investments that have fallen below your purchase price? That's a loss to you, and you can actually offset capital gains in taxable accounts. So this is one of those nice little perks there, and it's called tax loss harvesting. If you haven't taken a look at this, believe it or not, we have a show on tax loss harvesting you can go listen to really kind of get some of the nuances here, because we do run out of time a lot of the time when we start getting into our shows and trying to make our way through a lot of these topics and the highlights reels. But yeah, this is the time of year, and this is an interesting debate that Ben and I were having this last year. What do we think, or this the end of year? What do we think the market's going to do? And we, Ben, why don't you go ahead and step into that one? I'll set you up there, bud.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you. Well, no, I mean, we've talked about this, and Seth's made great points about this too. And I really felt like there might be a sell-off this month because of tax loss harvesting. I really felt like this is one year where people had some losses in the beginning of the year through the pandemic, and I think maybe some people reallocated and took advantage of maybe oversold airlines or oversold energy or oversold hotels or whatever, and had some substantial gains. And it's a great time to sell and maybe offset some of those prior year losses even. That's going to be more for the equity player, the person who's trading stocks in that kind of, after-tax account. And, that's an opportunity that you can take advantage of if you did have some losses at the beginning of the year, that you can sell some gains and kind of try to wash some of that out and kind of reset your cost basis, which is great considering, potential tax changes that could be coming down the road. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But selling stocks and what's going to happen in the market, I mean, I think we got a good 6-9 months here. I think the market's is going to be strong generally for 6 to 9 months. I think there's going to be some peaks and valleys, but I think overall the pandemic, one of the things that I think is really pushing the market up is the amount of cash that people are saving by not traveling, not going out to eat. All the lockdowns have really created more cash flow, more savings, less spending in a lot of different ways, and that has created opportunity for people to invest money. And so I think, honestly, there's going to be something, and if it's not a sell-off in December, it's probably going to be a quick sell-off in January, and then off we go again for another 6 to 9 months. How the year ends up next year, I don't know. I think it's generally positive. I don't have any reason to think it's completely off the charts, but I think if we have an overthrow with a Trump victory, I think we're going to have a little bit bigger of a valley and then a better of a mountain climb. But I think there's more concern long term in a Biden presidency. So that's definitely. I mean, Seth, I don't know about you, and I hate to throw out all these what ifs, but I got to tell you, I saw some election fraud video stuff that I just can't believe that's going on in Georgia. I mean, so I've never really. I mean, gosh, that was apparent fraud to me, and it's 36 to 50,000 votes just in one little county in one little spot where they were counting. That is really concerning how organized that was. So, and not to create too much upheaval among our listeners, but that was a scary thing. So those kind of unknowns create a lot of, anything could happen moving forward. So I would say managing tax plays and then taking on long-term equity holds for long-term positions with companies you feel are strong no matter what happens, good, bad, or ugly in between, is really the play.
I love how you covered both sides of the coin there, because there was the discussion that we've had about this, and we've kind of gone around and around. And you took over what I was going to say for me very nicely. And so I won't rehash this point with you, Ben, but I will move on to another that I've.
No, I want to hear your thoughts on this month.
That later. We'll see how it all plays out, and then I'll say told you so. Maybe this year you want to max out your retirement plan, right? That's I think if you have a 401k out there, if you have a retirement plan set up, this is your last kind of push that you have to be able to do that. Now, if you're in that IRA conversation, you do have some time left on the clock, basically until usually it's April 15th. I'd have to take a look at the calendar because it did move, I think, this last year. But so if you have that April 15th date ahead of you, that's fine. But if you're in that 401k world of your retirement plan, right now you've got a little bit of time to possibly push through. If you can kind of move over and have some savings, because you haven't been traveling and you haven't been eating out like Ben was talking about, maybe use a little bit of that and push off a little bit of that income into your retirement account. So $19,500 plus a $6,500 catch up is currently where that sits for the 401k world. And if you didn't catch the HSA show that we did, I love this. We're just getting so many references back to our podcast and old shows that not even that old. I mean, they're current, but yeah, there's an HSA. If you have an HSA, that is one of our favorite triple threats in the tax world to take advantage of.
Yeah, that is something that is just not given the road that it needs to be on. And honestly, it was a great reminder for me. It was a good show. It's kind of something that loses a lot of. It's just not sticking forefront in a lot of people's minds. But it is such an amazing program. You can do $7,100 or $8,100 this year if you're over 55. Now, normally it's over 50, but in the HSA world, it's 55. Yeah, go back to that show. If you haven't listened to that show, that would definitely be a number one winner for you guys to reference. And like you said, Seth, it's kind of funny that we're going over the shows. But when it comes to maxing out your retirement plan, we've also had shows that you can go back to about whether a 401k even makes sense and how much you should be putting into a 401k and what might be relevant for you. And it has to do with your tax brackets and your tax levels and all the different things going on. And that would be another show to reference inside of this, and kind of realizing that, hey, you never want to miss out on the free money in the 401k. If your employer's matching your retirement plan, you better get every penny into there for that match. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You do it. If it's a struggle, if it's a stretch, you figure out how to make it work. That's free money, and you'd be silly to miss out on that. Anything above that is going to be a conversation for you with a CPA or a financial planner to really figure out if that makes sense, both near term and long term for you.
Folks, this is a good time for us to tell you that you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up with point. Well, we're going to get there. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to all the points today. We're going to try. But yeah, you're listening to Money on Tap. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to talk more about what you can do to wrap up your 2020 with some successful tax planning. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing,
putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. My name is Seth Crespin, and I'm here with Ben Brayshaw, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551. First of all, want to thank you for listening today. Second of all, thank you for calling. We appreciate the feedback. We love working with you. And if you are looking for some direction right now in your finances and your planning, that's what Ben and I do. We're financial planners. Brayshaw Financial Group is the name of our company, and we're really happy and honored that you give us the opportunity to give some insight, to have a look, to see what the lay of the land is here and help you take that next step forward. Giving you the confidence to move forward is really what the planning world provides in so many ways. Today we're talking about 2020, doing a wrap on 2020, and what are some of the tax opportunities or opportunities to lower your taxes. The first way I said that might sound like we're going to try to spend more taxes this year. And we will get there because maybe that's the right choice, right? It really depends on what is the landscape. What's the big picture for you? But some of these things that we're discussing and going to be coming to next are we've had shows about in the past, and you can go back and reference some of our Money on Tap on podcast. We're out there in every venue possible, so take a look at whatever works well for you, and you can find us at Money on Tap. And we've done a lot of shows of what we're just highlighting today, and we've dove into those. So we want to, really give you some of the more fine details of how these different pieces work and if they possibly could be working for you. So next up, we have self-employed solo 401k, taking advantage of that opportunity if that is you, or what you have as a solopreneur that you can take advantage of right now.
Yeah, Seth, with the self-employed side, we're as being self-employed ourselves. I mean, this is something that we are obviously directly engaged in on a daily basis. The solo 401k, though, is something that is only for someone who owns a business by themselves or with their spouse or with their partners. You can't have employees in this. But it maxes out a 401k in a way you haven't seen before. It uses the defined contribution or the 401k contribution piece that you can do, but it also has that, pension defined benefit piece that you can also add to it, which allows you to get as much as $57,000 in the plan during the year. And if you're over 50 years old, you can get $63,500. I mean, this could be a massive deduction piece for somebody who's had a breakout year and you're by yourself or you have your spouse working for you, family members, or you just have partners. This is a big item. We do this from time to time for people who are like, hey, we need to open up a solo 401k immediately and make a contribution. That's a quick phone call to us to get that done. Now, being self-employed, we talked a little bit about paying bills now and number one and so forth, but when it comes to business expenses, this is the number one play where you can tier what you see potentially in the horizon versus what you see in the past. If you don't have a lot of income, pushing expenses into this year may not really be a great move. But if you have had a breakout year, we buy our computers at the end of the year. We look for the Black Friday deals. We look for all of that. But that's where we really stage a lot of our expenses, is trying to figure out which year we should buy them in. And when you get to the end of the year, you've got two abilities to choose which year it is as you get to that end of the December. And even right after Christmas, there's huge sales, huge technology sales, things that didn't sell. Next on our list, we have donor advised funds here. Now, we've done a show on this too. We've done a show on this recently as well. But Seth, probably out of any year ever to do a donor advised fund, it would be this year. This would be the year of all years to consider doing a donor advised fund for, a couple reasons. I mean, and I'm really just going to jump into potentially a Biden presidency and what could happen here in the fact that, he's going to change a lot of the charitable stuff where if you're making over $400,000, and that sounds like an astronomical amount of money, but when you come into a self-employed person and companies and this, that, and the other thing, it could really hit you hard. Normally, you get to itemize your deductions, to 37%, up to 37% of your income over $400,000. Biden wants to reduce that to 28%. Now that is a very large hit. So what that would do is if you were going to give $100,000 to a children's hospital, for instance, normally you get $37,000, savings. Now that's a pretty good benefit. But now it would only be $28,000. That just gives you kind of a real hit on giving the same amount in year over year. Now, when it comes to donor advised funds and the fact that you can, it's like $100,000. Well, if you could wrap up a bunch of your charitable contributions all in this year and then break them out with the donor advised fund, if you go back to our show, you can literally say, hey, I want to give $33,333.33 every year for the next 3 years. Here's my $100,000, and you put it in this year. You get the deduction this year, and then the donor advised fund will actually send it out over the next 3 years. So it's as if giving for 3 straight years, which is fine, but you've accomplished a much potentially higher deduction now than you would have had, if you do it over the next few years. That's a big hit for a lot of people, especially people who give regularly to charities or churches and so forth. And we work with a lot of people that give in those worlds. And, that's a big deal. And donor advised funds are a way to wrap that up in a very nice bow and allow you to get that. You can do your itemized deductions mostly and get better credits across the board. So give us a call if that's an issue for you or a concern.
Yeah. Need I say more? We're going to reference the Giving Show, which was 3 shows ago now, where we cover a few of these specific giving strategies because we love the opportunity at this season to be charitably minded. And if that's you, give us a call, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And there's just a much larger conversation there. And one of the things that we talked about there before as well, and is on our list today, is giving your IRA money to charities. So this has to do with RMDs. Don't you love the lingo? I'm going to actually tell you what that means too. It's called a required minimum distribution. And if you have qualified money, that IRA out there, and you hit 72, used to be 70 and a half, now it's 72, the IRA rules require you to start taking income off of those, to start taking distributions. And that's ordinary income is how that comes out of an IRA, right? So you're required to take this money. Maybe you don't need that money, but it's going to show up it's going to show up at the end of the year for you on that tax bill as ordinary income. Well, what you can do is, instead of taking that, or only taking part of that, if that's what works well for you, you can take that and you can gift it directly to the charity, so it never shows up as ordinary income in your taxes. And it's a wonderful pass through and a more efficient way for you to be gifting those monies to charities. And the way that works out on your taxes, and please connect with your CPA and have them run a couple of different scenarios there for you, which they will do to take a look and see what's the benefit there. And it's one of those things that we surprisingly, it just takes a little bit of thought, takes a little bit of doing. Now, the key is that money cannot come to you. It does have to go directly to the charity. So that's one of those ABCs that we talk about all the time at this time of year.
Yeah, I think the thing about that is that, when you can't get that itemized deduction on the gift, that basically creates the same outcome as that. And I think that's probably the easiest way I've heard it explained. So if you're looking to give to charities and you can't itemize, giving through your retirement plans directly to the charities creates the same outcome for you as itemizing. Number 7 is considering a Roth conversion. Now, we have talked about this. We've done multiple shows on this. And, if you've had a year where it hasn't been fantastic and you're kind of below your normal income, and you can take on a little bit of income without feeling too burdened, converting your IRA to a Roth is a wonderful opportunity in the idea that it will now grow tax-free, tax-deferred, and come out tax-free. I mean, once you make this tax payment, it's all over. You don't have any more taxes on this money as long as you live under the current laws. So this is something that's really, really important for people. But, one of the big pitfalls, we talk about this in the show, is that you've got to pay the taxes yourself. So it can't come out of the conversion dollars. Like if you convert $10,000 out of your IRA, you got to put $10,000 into the Roth. Now, if you're in a 20% tax bracket, you're going to have to come up with $2,000 on your own to pay those taxes, totally separate. So that's a new financial burden for you. And we talked about we're going to save you taxes at year end. Well, we're going to save you taxes long term on this story. So maybe this was the wrong topic, but this is something worth considering before year end, especially if you've had kind of a weird year. You've got some savings. You haven't been spending as much, but you're not making as much. You might be able to afford that. And if we do have a Biden presidency and, they take the Senate and there's all sorts of stuff there and tax laws change all over the place, taxes are going to go up. They want to repeal the Trump tax code, and that's going to cause everyone's taxes to rise. It doesn't matter what income bracket you're in, your taxes are going up. All the deductions, all the write-offs, all the, automatic things that happen both. I mean, it's just across the board. Everyone's taxes are going up. So a Roth conversion might really be the very best thing for you to do this year, even if you've had a large gain recently, even if you had a large run-up. I know personally we've talked about doing a Roth conversion for 6-8 months here, Seth, with this market being pulled back. It's like, hey, listen, this is a great time. I did some Roth converting 2 or 3 different times this year. So it's something worth considering, especially assets in your IRA that are underwater. Like if you're at a loss for the year, if you're down, like let's say you bought Boeing at $300 and it's trading at low 200s, it's still probably a great convertible asset, and that's something worth considering.
Yeah, the other thing about this is this can be something that you can do over time as well. I know we took parts back in March and April, had partial conversions at those times, just taking a look at what that tax code or that where we could butt up into that next tax bracket. And having the capital available to go ahead and pay the taxes in this year as well. But it's not an all or nothing, folks. There's a lot of times it's just one of those things that you want to grab a piece and a part and you move it on over. And but you make sure that you're not putting yourself into a situation where you can't pay those taxes like Ben was talking about. That you do understand what it is that you are doing here, because there's been a lot of people that have just made a big mistake and had huge taxable years. So be aware of those things, okay? I think we're still going to butt up against a topic here that is going to be the wrap for us on this show today, that we've also talked about back in, a couple of months ago when we talked about a Biden versus Trump scenario and some of the concerns that are out there and trying to forecast what changes could possibly come down the road here with the potential to be a Biden presidency or a Democratic majority in the Senate. We don't know still. That's kind of where everything is at. But in taking a look at those implications is where we're at on number 3, capital gains tax.
Yeah, Seth, this is bad news. This is bad news. After all that appreciation, Seth, I hate to drop the show on some bad news story here. When it comes to capital gains tax, it's 2020 beware, 2021 be more aware. Basically, what happens or what Biden wants to have happen if he's president is to move to your income tax bracket, essentially, specifically and very directly for people over $1 million of income. Now, that probably excludes a large, volume of our listeners, but it's not just that. He wants to change the capital gains rate all over the place. But very specifically, he has said that if it's over $1 million, he wants it to go from that 20% capital gains rate to 39.6. That's almost a doubling on capital gains. And let me tell you why that's a bad hit, why that's bad for our stock market. What that does is that potentially creates a lot of concern about where you invest your money and looking for longer holding assets to kind of outweight the capital gains tax rate. People may not own things other than just, pure blue chip value stocks that sit there and do what they do. So that might make those stocks rise because there's more holding, but more people are afraid to buy and sell and transact. Higher capital gains rate is problematic usually. This is a big issue, and it's going to cause a lot of different strategies around how people invest if this actually gets through. And I would tell you that looking at your 2020 year, you may want to kind of assure yourself of your 15 or 20% capital gain and sell some of those long-term assets and lock in a cost basis so that now if you bought a stock for, say, $10,000, and let's say it's worth $20,000, if you sell that today, you're going to pay, maybe you're at the 20% tax rate of the gain of the $10,000, so you spend $2,000. But moving forward, your stock is now locked in, your value is locked in at its current tax rate. You have a new cost basis, and now you have net $18,000 that will never get taxed again. And now maybe you move forward with that and say, well, I was able to lock in that tax rate and the rest of it's going to be taxed at whatever tax rate moving forward. And that's one of the reasons why I think we might even see a pullback at the end of this year, Seth, right at the end of the month. Is this particular reason alone?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that we take a look at right now in understanding those market pieces. But what about some of these other assets that people accumulate just through business and, transitioning businesses? And that's one of the parts that we're seeing as well. Like, for instance, let's just say that you have a daughter and you're going to sell your car dealership to her, and March 18th is her birthday, and that's when you were planning on making that transition. Well, you might consider moving that up to this year, if at all possible, or if you happen to be the CPA and have or scheduled to retire in May, you might want to put that buyout to the partners to this time of year. And this is something that has hopefully been in the works and planned, and all the numbers are there and understood, because that's how planning works, and it's a big decision, and those are big numbers to be pushing through. But those are the kind of considerations, folks, that we're talking about right now, because there's just an unknown. What we don't know is we don't know the 2021 and the 2022. But that's one of the things that taking a look at the big picture and going through this planning process really helps accomplish for you. And so if you're not having the conversation, or if you haven't, hopefully we're getting this to you in time. We want to make sure that you have a little bit of time to pull the lever here and to make sure that you go through the process. It's a busy time of year for Ben and I. So give us a call, 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're here to help you the best way we possibly can. But that's what it is. This is the 2020 last minute tax moves that you guys can be taking advantage of. Ben, what else do you have?
That's it, Seth. Everyone, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. You've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We've enjoyed the show today. We've been grateful for you for joining us. We thank you for calling us and giving us an opportunity to speak into your life and be trusted advisors with you. That's something we hold really sacred, and we want to appreciate you for that. So thank you so much. And we just also want to appreciate you for allowing us to be who we are and have fun with what we do on a daily basis, which is financial planning. You can also find us at Facebook. We're at /3D Investing. We're also on Twitter at BFG_LLC. And as always, you can also find us at yourmoneyontap.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for liking our podcast. We appreciate you, and we can't wait to make it a great day and a great life with you here at Money on Tap.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.